Hi, I'm Todd Burrier, and in this video, I'm going to share really how Lifeplus changed my life, what it's meant for me as a human being, and what it's meant for the people I love, and really, the impact that it's made, because it's been really a huge, huge impact. And so, in order to give you some insight and take you through it, I got to take you back to before Lifeplus and really, my journey in general. And so this will take a little bit of time, and this isn't so I can tell you how great I am. I'm just a regular guy. This is to give you some insight and maybe some value and maybe some input to help you in your journey, whatever that is. And if Lifeplus is something you're considering or you're a part of, to give you some understanding about what's possible. What's really possible from a true deeper human perspective. Okay, so I grew up in a semi-broken house. My father really didn't spend very much time with us, and then he died when I was 18. I grew up with really had no money. I make a joke in my Leading with Heart book about how I used to duct tape my Chuck Taylors because they'd have holes in them, and I didn't want holes to get my socks. I mean, that's a real thing. That was pretty much par for the course. But of course, as a kid, you don't know that. I had a nice childhood. I had a great mom, and I got to fish and crab, and I didn't have played sports, and so I'm not complaining. That was just my road. But money was not a part of my life, so I didn't grow up with ambition around money. We just never had any. I also am by nature very introverted. And that was very impactful for me as a young person because I also have very low self-esteem. It's something I've wrestled with my entire life, in addition to having a little bit of chemical imbalance and being more prone to depression than not. And so having low self-esteem and being an introvert, man, it makes you feel like something's wrong with you. Really, that's essentially how I grew up. Something's wrong with me, and had low expectations, and again, not much ambition. And so I really didn't accomplish very much. I was fortunate to get through high school. I really went off the rails in high school, went from being very athletic and very involved in sports to spending my time in the parking lot doing other things. And then ended up going to college, spur of the moment, went to a community college my first year, worked construction to put myself, to enable myself to do that, almost failed out, but ended up then going to the University of Maryland. And again, almost failed out a couple times because I was totally off the tracks. I mean, I was in the self-destruction mode, and we're not going to break down why, but I'm just telling you who I am authentically. I was fortunate that I discovered economics in my junior year because for whatever reason, I'm not that smart. I'm a regular guy, to say the least. I don't learn very quickly. But those concepts were easy for me. I don't know why. They just made sense. It wasn't like that in any other curriculum, but I was able to not go to class, just read a textbook and get an A. And so I ended up with an economics degree and then put myself through college as a bartender and a waiter, and continued to do that after college because I had no ambition, and that was fun. Not to mention I was a shy guy, which is a great way to meet girls. And so I did that for the next 3 years, and then ultimately I got into banking. And because it's just one of those things, got into banking and was doing pretty well. But 2 times over a 4-year period, my job was disrupted, we'll say, because of problems with the company or problems in the marketplace. The second time it happened, man, that was a really difficult time because at that time we were married and we were pregnant, and man, that was very hard. But that turned out to be a great thing. Both of my job interruptions were great things. Because of the first one, I met Melanie, who is the love of my life and someone that I thank God for every day. And the second time it happened is what caused me to step up and say, you know what, I don't want this to happen again. I don't want to be in a situation where someone can pull the rug out from under me, because I was doing well. I was working in the commercial sector and doing commercial deals, and that was interesting. I actually liked the work, but I'm so happy that it happened because the rest of my life has been a lot different and a lot more fruit. Maybe that would have been good too. I don't know. Probably, I don't know. But bottom line is I was looking for a way to have freedom and not have that happen. And the only thing I could think about, because I didn't come from an entrepreneurial mentality, so I didn't think about starting a business because I didn't have any money anyway, nor did I have the inclination. And so I thought sales is the only real thing that, it gives you some freedom. But I couldn't get a high-level sales job because every time I took the sales aptitude test, I failed it. I said, you know what, you're a nice guy, but you're no salesman. And I didn't have an affinity for sales anyway. I was just thinking about a way to make money with a little bit of freedom. And so I ended up in a multi-level marketing meeting in May of 1989, and it was a very old style, traditional style, a lot of hype, a lot of investment. But, it was the right place at the right time for me because it opened my eyes. And so I said yes and plunked down $3,000 and got involved. And man, that was incredibly hard. It was unbelievably hard because now I had to face all my demons, my low self-opinion and my introversion head on, because I had to go talk to people, and that was so difficult. But and not to mention my personality profile says rejection is the thing I like the least. And obviously a lot of rejection, especially in 1989. Nobody knew anybody who made money in home business in 1989. And so, not to mention, I was selling skincare. Man, my friends had a field day with that. Were calling me the Avon boy and the Mary Kay guy. And oh my gosh, it was a disaster. My family told me how stupid I was. And it's tough beginnings. But you know what? I wanted freedom more than I wanted someone's approval, apparently, looking back, because I don't know why I persisted. I had quit everything in my life prior to that, except college, because I found a way to get through that. And over the next few years, I ended up building a pretty big business. I ended up, within 2 years, I reached a diamond level in that company, starting from scratch. There was great support in that company, great tools, great support, lots of meetings, and I worked my tail off. I worked my absolute tail off. I worked 15, 16 hours a day and got to a point where I was making $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 a month. And then that company got in trouble. And it got in trouble. It was being accused of being an illegal pyramid scheme, and it was all over the news. And literally within 30 days, my income went from $12,000 a month to $3,000 a month. But guess what? I'd never had money before, so I didn't know how to manage it. And we were already living well beyond our means because, you don't think it's going to stop if you don't know any better. And so that was a disaster. And a lot of people left that company and went on to actually make other companies become real. They put a lot of other companies got put on the map because of the people that left that company. But I didn't, and because I'm a loyal person, and there were people involved that I had brought to the table that I couldn't just walk away from them. And that's how I felt at the time. And so for the next several years, I worked really, really hard to try to build it back up. I was never able to get it back to that level. I did grow it quite a bit more. But as I matured, I realized that didn't fit me. I mean, there was a lot of money hype. I'm not a money hype guy. To me, it's like it's important, but money is important, but it's not nearly as important as a lot of other things. And so I just didn't like the way the model was, and there were certain things I didn't like. Let's just put it that way. As I grew up and I understood what I was involved in, I realized, okay, this just isn't a fit for me. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I knew it wasn't a fit. And that was hard too, because then that meant purposeful change, whatever that was going to be. And you know how hard that can be. But some great, incredible things had happened for me. And this is why I think everybody should be involved in a home business, because of what you learn about yourself and how you develop. I learned that the number one thing that makes me feel good is helping someone else. And to me, that was the core concept of networking, people helping people, right? That was the core concept, but it wasn't being modeled, in my opinion, in that company, at least in the way I felt it should be. Again, that's an excellent company. I'm not saying the company, but it's an excellent company. So I've realized that I loved that made me feel great. And then the other thing was I poured myself into personal development, which was a whole new world that I could work on myself, and that I could become a better version of myself, and that I could actually learn skills to overcome my introversion, and that I could, develop things. And so I poured myself into personal development. And I also uncovered my knack for speaking and teaching, and the fact that I love to do that. I never would have found that. I mean, I was horrified to speak in front of people, terrified. And I learned that I love to teach. And so through that process, so many things got uncovered and positioned for me. And then I eventually couldn't catch up from the financial problem that had happened several years before. I ultimately went bankrupt. We had nothing. We did have a roof over our head, but we owned nothing. And that was really difficult. I'm a person who keeps my commitments, and that was a big fat, I don't keep my commitment kind of thing. It was really, really hard for me. And then Lifeplus came into my life. And I had a friend at the time who I had a lot of respect for, who got an incredible result with Lifeplus's products. And it was life-changing and visible. And I had an interest in health. My father died, even though it wasn't a part of our life very much. He still was my father. And he died at 18 of cancer, and he had come home to die. So I saw that disease up close. And by the time when I was 28, I got really proactive about my health, because I wanted to try to avoid that. I mean, my family history is terrible. I since have had a brother that died of cancer. And so I wanted to try to, how can I avoid that? And so I was always interested in products and supplements, and I knew high levels of antioxidants could help you. But I'd been using supplements, and they had helped me to reduce the impact of a lot of my personal health problems back at that time. But I had never seen anything like what happened to my friend. And so I was very interested in the product, and then he started telling me how it works. And I wasn't sure, I don't know if I want to hear about this, because I just had this home business experience, and I'm not sure if I want to be involved in a home business again. I just don't know if that's for me. Even though I had developed all these skills, right? And I learned what those skills were shortly, because when he described how it worked, that there was no sign-up fee, no kit to buy, no inventory, and all this, that it was not built on hype and rah-rah and pressure, that it was a real thing about helping people. All that stuff sounded good, but the most important thing to me at that time was the integrity in which was represented by the management team, which has since turned out to be true. This company is run by some of the most caring, highest integrity people I've personally ever met, from the perspective of how they do business. And when I looked at the company's model, this is where my economics piece came in, because it defied reality, because companies don't do what they were doing and still are doing, and companies still don't do it. And that is, they were making products, and instead of selling inventory blocks to their distributors, who then had to sell them to customers, they were keeping all the risk. In other words, in order for me to get involved or even try the product, I didn't have to pay a sign-up fee. I'd never heard of that. I didn't have to buy a starter kit. I'd never heard of that. I could just buy a product and try it. And if I didn't like it, I could return it. I'm like, you can't make it any more fair. And I was buying that product at the same price my friend got his for. I wasn't having to pay a preferred customer rate or something. And so I'm like, how is this company doing business? I'm like, oh, at that time it was, they were 4 years old, which meant a lot, because you can't fool people, especially without a buy-in or some type of gimmick. You can't fool people that long. You must make great products, and they must believe they make great products. That's what I hitched my wagon to. They must believe they make great products in order to stake their entire existence on people using them and telling people about them, because that's the only incentive there was that you could earn. There wasn't any fear of loss based on, you had to buy 2,000 or 3,000 or 5,000 or different business centers or whatever language there is. And so I actually went and visited the company to see if it was a real thing, and it was. And, that's when I learned that they make products very uniquely, and very few companies in the world make products at this spec that are literally this good. And it was clear, because they worked. And since, they've done incredible things for myself and my family, and I can tell you health stories all day, but that's not what this video is about. You likely know about the products and know how good they are, and that is the center of the business. But it was the mentality, the ownership, because what it said to me was, by using this pure referral marketing model, they are demonstrating, they are exempling helping others as the way to help yourself. They were living it. They weren't just saying it. They were living it. And And so, I partnered with this guy. We were partnered at two separate positions, but we put them together and worked together. And we went very, very fast. Now, yes, I had a lot of contacts. I had just spent 7 years in the industry. I never threw away a contact. I never threw away a business card. I never threw away an index card with anybody's information on it. But just having a lot of contacts doesn't matter. It depends on what your reputation is with those contacts. And this is where I learned the primary fundamental of what I teach. And that is that I always, in those prior 7, I'll take that back. I didn't always, because I didn't know better at first. But the last several years, I had only treated people with kindness, honesty, and respect. If they weren't interested, fine. Didn't have any impact on the relationship. I never pressured people. And as a result, and I talked to everybody. I talked to absolutely everybody. I called people from my high school yearbook. I called everybody. And so here I was. I had a giant box like this big, right? This big of contacts that I could call. And everyone was okay with talking to me because they weren't afraid of me because I treated them well. And so I went very fast. And yes, several of those people had been a customer or had already been involved in the industry. But here's the thing. In that first month, I sponsored 100 people. This was before the internet. Well, there was an internet. I didn't know how to use it. I didn't know how to use a computer. I just had a phone and some audio tapes. Of those 100, 50 of them had never before purchased a product through me. So it wasn't like I just went and sponsored people out of the other company. I did, but it was a massive amount. The majority of the business going forward came from people that were never a part of something else. And so I worked incredibly hard, like for several years, was very involved in helping Lifeplus get Europe figured out and started. I wasn't a part of initiating that. I was just part of when it got to the point where it had to get working right or not. I was very involved in staying in touch with people and helping that happen, and and had built a really nice business that started to create a nice lifestyle. I was making good money for the first time in my life consistently. And so I worked pretty hard up until 2002. I did a lot of stuff for the company, a lot of trainings around the US, went to Europe quite a bit, did a lot of different things. And then by 2002 to 2008, I was at a place where, I made plenty of money every month, and money's not my driver. Status is not my driver. There was a time early in my career, like when I became a diamond in that first company, that was a big deal. When I became a diamond in Lifeplus and 1-star and then a 2-star, and that was a big deal, but not really. It never did that much for me because I'm not driven that way, and I'm really not driven that way now. I don't really care at all about accolades. I just knowing I helped someone is what matters for me. And so in 2002, I took off. I stopped working. I didn't do anything proactive between 2002 and 2008. I might have considered dabbling in creating something, but I really didn't work the business for 6 years. I just lived off my residuals for the most part, because my number one thing besides taking care of myself is family. And I had this unbelievable relationship with my children because they'd never seen me go to a job in their life. I was a part of their life. I had this great relationship, and I'll just tell you flat out, if anyone who gets too out of balance pursuing money and they blow off the things that are really important to them, that is a price that you never want to pay. You never want to pay it. And I had this great relationship with my kids, and I didn't really need to make more money. I mean, I could have worked to make a lot more money. I've never made $1 million a year in the industry. I've made multi-6 figures more years than not. As long as I have enough money to do the things that we love to do and live the way we like to live, I don't care. Do I worry about money like other people? Sure, I'm a human being, right? I care about having stuff, but for my family, but I didn't need to make more at that time. And so I took those 6 years off, and I was available for my kids as they went through high school, and really active in supporting kids that went to camps and were pursuing young life and wildlife and hosting stuff. And I started a basketball program for a Christian school, and I still wanted to use some of my skills, so I started doing leadership training for corporations, which was very interesting because I never even considered that. And and I had all this experience, and then that started to grow because I was teaching the real stuff, right? The people side of work. Anybody can teach the mechanism side, but the people side is where the hardest part is. And I had gotten my MBA, I'd written my first book. I did all this stuff in that time frame. So it was a wonderful, wonderful time. And then as my kids were moving on, and going to college, etc., it was time for me to get re-engaged. And and I love the company. I love the people. I love the ownership. I love what they meet, what they represent, their hearts. And so, I had many, many, many opportunities to take very lucrative positions other places. But that's not me. That's not what I do. It's not who I am. And so, I stayed here. And even though there was very little to nothing going on in the United States at that time, all the business was over in Europe, and I don't blame the company for doing that. I mean, they should have done that. You got to go where the business is. But I got active again, and over the next few years, built a couple of new diamond legs. But never, ever, ever have I worked it since the way I worked when I was younger, because I'm just not driven that way. I'm driven to help people. And so I don't care if I'm helping someone with the products or if I'm helping someone just to understand the opportunity. I constantly am training and serving and helping people who are not even in my network. And I'm happy to do it, because what's good for the company is good for everybody. That's my, now not everybody thinks that way. There are major leaders in the company that don't like me. And that's okay. I'm all right. That's not my problem. I treat everyone with kindness, honesty, and respect. I teach fundamentals that work inside of any program, any system, any methodology, because it's about the people side. If you do what I teach from a people perspective, things will be pretty good, right? You still got to do the work, right? If you're trying to build a big income, you got to do big work. I mean, no question, right? I left lots of money on the table because hey, there's parts of the work I don't love, right? I mean, let's face it, not everybody likes prospecting. I always hated it, right? I did it. I got really good at it, and I'm still really good at it, but I don't like doing it. But I'll do it, I work on things to do it, and I constantly do it, but not like I used to, right? Because what's the point? It depends on what your goals are, right? So, and that's an important thing to understand. What drives me is serving and teaching and being a part of making a difference in as many people's lives as possible. I don't really care who they are. I don't care where that comes from, and what I want for people is for them to experience what's possible in their life so they can live their best life and live a rich life based on what matters to them. See, I break down quality of life to 7 aspects: health, relationships, standard of living, fulfillment, the capacity to give, your mental outlook, and your pursuits. And if I look at what this opportunity, what Lifeplus has meant for me, first, I have amazing health. I mean, I'm 58. I'm in better shape than most people who are in their 30s. And I don't, it's not because of my genetics. I mean, genetically, I know from my mother, I don't know from my father because he didn't live very long, that we are predisposed to look young. That doesn't mean we live long. Although my mom has, but most of our other relatives haven't. But I'm in great health as of now. I have married to an incredible lady. I have a great relationship with my kids. I have so many incredible relationships in my life. I am rich in love, and people that I know genuinely care about me. My standard of living is unbelievable. Like I said, financially, I'm not the richest guy, and because I don't really care about that, but I live in an awesome place. I pretty much do what I like to do and when I want to do it. And I get to work on the things I enjoy. And that's what life is about. It's not about what you accumulate. It's not about power. It's not about status. It's about living. And so, standard of living is essentially measured by where you are relative to where you want to be. And, I'm still working on things to make more money. I enjoy that, right? But I like also to work on projects, right? The things, because that's part of my pursuits, right? That's part of the standard of living is pursuits. I like to write. I like to create courses. I like to coach. I love to teach. It's my favorite thing. I'd teach all day. I would absolutely teach all day, right? Teach or coach. I would do that all day. Why? Because it's what God made me to do. It's what's in my heart to do. And so I try to create opportunities to do that as much as possible. And so the pursuits part of my life, awesome. The capacity to give, part of my work is giving. I mean, heck, I'm uncovering still, I'm constantly learning that I tend to overgive, which I'm okay. I'm okay with doing that. But, you know, you're supposed to give. That's what it's all about. We're not here to just consume, right? We're not here to just like be like superstars. We're here to make a difference in people's lives, a meaningful difference, and in whatever way God gifted us to do it. And then fulfillment. You know, again, that's another major piece that I feel very blessed. I'm rich in it. I'm very fulfilled in the things that I do, you know, and that's a very unique thing. And it's something that if any of these 7 are missing, that's a problem, right? It's a problem for people. And then the other one is mental outlook. This is a constant struggle for me because of my wiring. I mean, I'm wired to have anxiety. I'm wired to have depression more often than not. But I work on that. And by participating in what really matters to me and not falling prey to what other people think, right? Which is important for you. Don't do what other people think you should do. Do what's in your heart. Then you can work on that. And so that's pretty good for me. Pretty good for me. It's not awesome, but it's pretty good. And so when I look at those 7 qualities, those 7 aspects that I teach, that's what it's all about for me, is being able to make a difference, being able to make a contribution, being able to be invested in relationships, being healthy, feeling fulfilled, giving of yourself, right? Man, that's what life is all about. And so I know what this can do for people. I also know that it's not an overnight thing, that there's always going to be outside pressures telling you it should be a certain thing, or you should be doing this, or you should be doing that. That's up to you, what you do. But that's why I enjoy helping people. That's why I help people throughout the industry. And again, there are people that don't like that, right? There's people that don't like the fact that I do that. But you know what? I just like to help people. If I could 100% spend my time helping people in Lifeplus all day, then I would, right? But I also would want to write and want to teach and want to do other things. But so anyway, that gives you a little bit of context as to what it's meant for me and what it can mean for you. And I would strongly suggest that you be clear about what matters to you and what your purpose is for it. Because this is a wonderful thing. Everybody should be a part of this thing, because Lifeplus is a great thing. In whatever way you want it to affect your life. But if you really dive in and you really work at it, and then you allow yourself to experience those things like the growth in skills, and not just your business skills, your people skills, and what that does for your confidence and what that does for your credibility and your opportunities, man, it's an amazing thing what it can do for your life. So I hope that this is helpful for those of you who are in Lifeplus. Feel free to send me an email or call me if you have a question. And if you stumbled across this and somehow ended up watching the whole thing and you have no idea what Lifeplus is all about, and you're going to be tempted to go Google it, you can. It's one of the few things on the planet that the deeper you look at it, the better it gets. That's very rare in today's world, but that's what this is. The more you look, the better it gets. But if you want to talk to me about it, I'm happy to share it with you. And if you want to work in it, I'm happy to help you. All right. So there you have it for what it's worth. Thanks for listening. Bye.